Hi everybody. Today we're taking a closer look at 221B Baker Street, the Master Detective game, first published by Hansen way back in 1975. Over the years, it's been reissued several times, expanded with new cases many times, and ultimately reprinted and consolidated into a deluxe edition in 2015, I think it was. And yet, despite all the facelifts and cosmetic upgrades, the core rules remain the same. And just in case you are not familiar with detective fiction or you haven't read Arthur Conan Doyle's stories about Sherlock Holmes, the title of the game refers to the made-up London street address where Dr. Watson and Holmes reside. And sadly, in real life, Baker Street, London ends just before you get to that magical number. 221B Baker Street is an entry-level tabletopper that is as much a fun social activity as it is a true board game. In other words, there are barely any rules, and it's incredibly easy to learn and play. Still, over the years, I've played this game with all kinds of different people in various groups, and it never failed to entertain. So I always keep a copy of it in my collection whenever I need something for a good light experience that isn't a war game. So let me show you how it works. I'll start by taking 30 seconds to explain the rules, and I will comment on the pros and cons of the three major reissues. I've owned all of them at one time or another. And I will discuss some possible upgrade ideas you can implement to make your experience with the game more immersive. Also, I will talk about a couple of pretty cool mods you can get that allow for solitaire play. And I'll close with some final thoughts and discuss some overall pros and cons. I will discuss whether or not I feel the game adequately captures and portrays some of the major themes found in the literature. The object of the game is to be the first player to solve a mystery. The earliest edition, the one that I have here, I think came with 20 different mysteries. But there are at least 9 expansion packs at 20 per for 180 extra official scenarios that you can find on sites like eBay. It's also not uncommon for sellers to throw in an expansion pack or two with the base game, so always keep your eyes out for those deals when they come up if you're interested in getting a used copy on the secondary market. Furthermore, on BGG, there are at least a few more fan-made scenarios you can download for free written by a user named Okasita. I played a few of them to test a couple of solitaire rules that you can also get off BGG. And I also recently uploaded my own scenario. It's called The Scary Man from Seething Lane, so feel free to download that off BGG in the file section. But for now, let's take a second to explain how to get started. Each player takes a player token, 1 skeleton key card, 1 badge card, and a checklist to keep track of what is learned at each location visited. Each player will need a pencil. The leftover key cards go to the locksmith space, and the rest of the badge cards go to the Scotland Yard. At this point in time, you select a scenario or case card and give each player a chance to read through it and take notes if they want. It shouldn't take long because most are no more than just a few paragraphs of background information, so brief case files. I laminated mine, the case file cards, because they get passed around. You don't want them to get gross, especially if you have snacks available for your guests. Another option is to photocopy the cases so every player has one of their own sheet of paper. Once everybody is ready or has read the cases, play begins, and that's it for the setup. Now, before you go any further, you have to remember the earlier editions, like the one I am demoing here in this video, are 1970s productions, which means crappy components. So feel free to upgrade your minis and even dice for added immersion. It really helps with the overall experience. I find to upgrade components. I recycle DVD coupons, just like I did in my review of the game Masterpiece. I'm sure actual Sherlock Holmes themed minis would be the best choice. Later editions have these. Eventually I might get some, but anything other than what actually comes with the first edition is going to be a huge upgrade. I also upgraded the dice. The object of the game is to solve a case and to be the first player to return back to a Baker Street address with the solution. The type of information needed to solve a case varies depending on the scenario. You may have to name a prime suspect, identify a motive, and or find a murder weapon. Or you might have to decode a secret message or locate a hidden object or a missing person. It's different things every game, and the missions could involve anything really within the realm of Victorian crime fiction. So everyone starts at Baker Street. You randomly determine a player order and begin. And on a player's turn, they roll 1d6 and move towards a location. Most people modify this aspect of the game, modern sensibilities, and ideas about fairness. That's fine. I do it too. The way I play is to roll 2d6 and take the best result. Other options include equal base movement points for all players, plus a limited number of cab tickets. Whatever modified movement rules you decide to go with will work, so I wouldn't worry about that as long as you apply any adjustments consistently. Movement is orthogonal. When a player reaches a destination, there are 14 different ones in the game. They get access to a clue that is associated with a specific board location in your active case file. You have to consult a solution book to get the clue. They are listed according to each scenario. One modification our group made to the rules that we really enjoyed involved the possibility of shared information. So what we did was to say if you, by chance, landed on the exact same space as a person, you could offer a one-to-one exchange of clues or swap of information. However, you couldn't run up and overtake another player. It had to be a precise coincidental meetup by exact board space count. So you could, in fact, waste turns trying to chase down other players. However, there was another fun aspect to this alternate rule. You could trade a red herring or a bum steer tip for a legit lead. Many scenarios have locations that might just say no clue. So it was always funny if you ripped off another player in that type of exchange. Cards add some screwage factor into the mix, but this is really only aggravated in games with higher player counts. The way the cards work are as follows. Each player starts with one of each kind and can never hold more than that amount. If a player drops a Scotland Yard card at a location, it keeps other players from entering the location and discovering the clue there. The only way to open any location that has been sealed off by another player is to play a skeleton key card on top of a Scotland Yard card. At that point, you would remove both cards and return both to their respective piles at Scotland Yard and the locksmith shop. Players can reload their badges and keys only if they return to the concerned locations. Another space, in fact, has a special rule attached to it. If a player gets to the carriage depot, they may take a cab to any location on the board on their next turn without rolling dice for movement, or they may simply spend a turn searching the location for a clue. At least that's how our group plays it. It takes a whole turn to either search Scotland Yard or the locksmiths for a clue, or to get a new card from there, as mentioned before. But you don't have to play it that way if you want a faster game. You could just say a new card comes with a search. Players use their checklists to keep track of the clues gathered, and when they think they can solve the mystery, they race back to Baker Street. Once there, a player states what they think the answer is. They check in the book to see if they have the right solution. If they discover they have any information wrong, they're out of the game. And on the other hand, if their solution is sound, they win. And that's 221B Baker Street, the Master Detective game. This is actually my type of game because you can get a lot of extra free stuff for it on BGG. If you have an earlier edition and you don't like the graphic design of the original map, you can download a free PDF of a more colorful, later version of the board. It looks like this. Speaking of different versions of the game, I guess I'll take an opportunity to discuss some of the main reasons why you might want to buy one edition over another. Hansen's is the earliest version of the game. It is the easiest to find on the secondary market. It's the cheapest by far, but it has the junkiest components out of the box. So I would recommend this version of the game if you already have a stable, really fun group of people who will play anything and don't really care what a game looks like. They're just there for the fun of it. Personally, I think Hansen's bookcase is fine. The gloomy board and the graphic design kind of grows on you. You can pair it up with rainy Victorian street ambiance audio files that you can run off YouTube as you play. And you can get a pretty immersive experience, actually. You get the rain and the clop, 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 clop of the horses' feet on cobblestone and everything. So it's really good. The Gibson version is harder to find. It's more expensive. It comes in a larger box and it has better player pawns, and it has the very best map, in my opinion. The layout is altered. The park and carriage depot get moved. A location gets renamed. The apothecary changes to the chemist, I think, but it doesn't affect overall gameplay. However, if you are in what I call attract gaming mode, that is, you're trying to entice interest in your game, or maybe you are looking for new players to recruit into your group, then get this version because it's way more pleasing to look at, and not many people are just going to walk by this board without wondering what you're playing or what's going on. And I've seen this many times. And finally, the deluxe edition. Yeah, if you're trying an earlier version of the game and you like it and had a good time, I say it's worth it. It's not too expensive. I think $50 to $60, and it comes with all 200 official cases. By the way, I have played quite a lot of 221B over the years, but still not even close to all of the missions. Now, can you play it solitaire? Officially, the game does not support solo play, but unofficially, yes, absolutely. Thanks to at least a few BGG contributors, you can get workable solitaire rule sets, and they range from simple to more complicated. So I'll briefly give a quick overview of these two possible solo setups. A user named Michael Wood posted an easy one whereby you play Scotland Yard cards on 2 random locations. Although I don't think you start with any key cards. You have just 24 hours. 1 hour equals 1 turn, so 24 turns to solve a mystery. You get 2d6 to move. And I've played it. It works. It becomes more like a dice game, though. A lot of poor die roll results will prevent you from winning. Overall, it's okay. Now, the solo rule set I use, which I really enjoy, is by a user named Dom5, and it is quite a bit more complicated, but it plays out much more like an adventure. So I'll just give you a brief overview of how it works. So Sherlock moves 2d6 each turn, but can take a cab anywhere if he rolls doubles. However, he only has 20 turns to solve a mystery. You add 3 police constables, Bobby tokens to the game, plus 1 criminal token. The Bobby starts outside locations, like 3 random locations. You roll to see how long they remain in place. It's going to be 1 to 3 turns. So you could say on a 1 to 2, 1 to 6 result, it's 1 turn, 3 to 4 result, 2 turns, etc. You could use dice to keep track of this. After their local patrol ends, they start to move around the board and then stop at another location for between 1 to 3 turns. Anytime a Bobby reaches an intersection, simply resolve his choice of direction with a random die roll. The cool thing about the police in this game is that they don't automatically let you into a location. You need to pass a die roll to determine whether or not you successfully convince them to allow you to enter. You have to roll under or equal to the number of clues you already have on a 2d6 roll to get past a cop guarding a location. So the more you already know about the case, the more trustworthy you appear to Scotland Yard. If you roll snake eyes, you encounter an imposter, a fake cop, who tries to beat you up, and there's a die roll involved, and you might wind up knocked out and sent back to 221B, laid up for 2 turns while Dr. Watson stitches you back together, so that's pretty funny. And then the robber behaves much the same way. He moves around the board randomly. If he lands on you, he can beat you up with a die roll, and you can lose time recovering back home. Bobbies can arrest the robber. Everything is all accounted for, and it all works quite well. So the last game I played with this setup, I solved a mystery and arrived back home to 221B Baker Street on the very last turn. I never felt the need to interact with a Bobby. The robber got arrested once. I still came dangerously close to him at least twice towards the end of the game. I think I won ultimately because I just got lucky with a couple of rolls. Dom 5's variant is really fun to play, and you can download the instructions in the file section of BGG. And I'm always pleasantly surprised by all the new stuff people come up with for old titles like this one. Of course, you really want to play with 4 or 5 people just for the social experience of it all. It's just really fun to play with other people, even though there's really nothing to it. It's very interesting to see how other people react to weird clues and how they put all the puzzle pieces together. Even though I always seem to have a great time whenever I play 221B opposed, it's only fair that I also mention some of the drawbacks of the system, besides the fact that it's light as air in terms of complexity. In larger player counts, if you don't make an attempt to moderate the overall pace of the game, you can get a lot of lag with the clue book and confusion, like who has the book. People are excited to take their turns, move out of turn order. Then they're owed a clue. 2 other people haven't gotten theirs yet. So you have to at least make an attempt to control the flow of the game. The cases themselves vary in quality in their overall plausibility. Some of the plots and schemes may seem preposterous and unbelievable. Others are well written and seem really diabolical. At least once I played out a case and thought to myself, wow, in an age before forensics and genetic sequencing, this is a crime somebody could pull off for real and get away with. So you don't know what you're going to get case to case. The clues themselves can be problematic. Sometimes in the comments section of BGG, you see some complaints. And why is that? Well, some of the clues are of the crossword puzzle type, or even worse, straight up wordplay. And I remember one time we encountered a clue that was some kind of reference to Brit pop culture from the 1970s or something. So I mean, good luck with that. I'm pretty sure at least one multiplayer game I played in crashed. Like nobody could get the solution because the clues were so obscure. But that was only one time though. Fortunately, there are fixes to these on BGG. In the comment section, always look for the discussion titles that say deductive clues for case whatever. So you know that's what they're talking about. Somebody swapped out original ineffective clues with better ones that actually require deduction relevant to the concerned case. So as I said before, I've had fun with it. I could show you some evidence of my gaming history with it too. It's actually pretty funny. So I'll disappear for a few seconds. This is a Facebook thread from 2015, although it seems like a million years ago. I took a picture of a game. First time we upgraded from Hanson to Gibson's edition. And a girl in a group asked if we got a new board, and I came back with a little zinger there. And then there's some trash talk back and forth, which is pretty funny. So anyway, yeah, overall, I'd say it's really doesn't rank against other Sherlock Holmes tabletoppers. It is simply the first one of the genre that I know of, but that doesn't mean it's not good or isn't fun. It's definitely not pretentious in any way. The question is, in playing, do you get an authentic Sherlock Holmes experience with it? Do players actually practice the science of deduction? Well, truthfully, you aren't studying any parallels in crime history. You aren't actually analyzing poisons or footprints or tobacco ashes or handwriting. There is a hint of suspect profiling, I guess. What you are doing is connecting a few dots, sharing a few secrets or not with your friends, ideally, and just having a good time. Pretending you have magical intuition and better powers of analysis than everyone else in the room. And that's where the true fun lies, in my opinion. And that's 221B Baker Street, the Master Detective game. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content coming soon.